She was running through the streets in a wedding dress, barefoot, her hair messy, her face stained with tears. The city moved around her like she didn't exist. Cars honked. People whispered, but no one came forward. Her hands trembled as she clutched a torn photograph, her breath quick and shallow. She reached the train station, heart pounding, eyes searching for something, anything, but her strength gave up. She collapsed right there on the platform floor, ignored by the crowd. Then came the sound of boots, slow, steady. A cowboy, dusty and quiet, knelt beside her. He didn't ask questions. He didn't seem surprised. He gently picked her up, covered her with his coat, and looked around like he'd been waiting for this moment his whole life. She opened her eyes slightly, meeting his. That was the first time they saw each other, and somehow everything changed. In that single silent second, Emily never thought her dream day would feel like a nightmare. Dressed in a white gown, heart heavy and eyes swollen from crying, she stood at the edge of a life she didn't choose. Her parents had arranged the wedding without asking what she wanted. The groom was rich, but a stranger. Minutes before the vows, Emily slipped out the back door, clutching a small bag and leaving everything behind. She didn't know where she was going, she just knew she had to run. The sun burned above as her heels broke and her gown dragged in the dirt. She reached the nearest train station, crowded with strangers and noise. Her head spun, her stomach empty, her mind racing. She stumbled toward platform 3, legs shaking. No one noticed her pain until her body finally gave up. She collapsed to the ground, her dress stained, her breath fading. No one helped, but someone had seen her. Her body lay still on the cold platform floor, breath shallow, skin pale. People stepped around her as if she were invisible. Some stared, some whispered, but no one came forward. Then came the sound of slow, steady footsteps, boots hitting the cement with purpose. A man stopped beside her, tall and silent. He wore a worn-out hat, a faded brown coat, and boots covered in dust. His name was Jake, a cowboy not from the city, not from the crowd, not from the noise, but from somewhere quieter, harder, and lonelier. His eyes scanned her face, not with curiosity, but with concern. He didn't ask who she was or why she was there. Without hesitation, he bent down, lifted her in his arms, and carried her to a quiet wooden bench at the far end of the station where no one could stare. Gently, he set her down, reached into his bag, and pulled out a bottle of water. He opened it and touched it to her lips. She didn't move at first, just breathed, weak and slow. Then her eyelids fluttered, and she gasped softly like someone waking from a bad dream. Her vision blurred, her chest rising and falling in panic. She tried to sit up, but he placed a calm hand on her shoulder. "You're safe now," he said softly, his voice like warm wind through dry fields. She blinked, looking up at him, confused, scared, unsure if this was real or another part of the chaos she'd just escaped. He took off his coat and gently draped it over her shivering body. "Don't talk, just rest." She didn't answer. She didn't need to. For the first time that day, she didn't feel chased. She didn't feel trapped. Jake sat beside her, quiet and still, watching the people move without urgency. He wasn't a man of many words. He wasn't the type to pry. He just waited. After a while, she whispered, "Why did you help me?" He looked straight ahead, then answered slowly, "Because you looked like you needed someone who wouldn't ask why." Her heart stung. No one had ever said that to her. No one had ever seen her pain without demanding an explanation. The silence between them wasn't awkward. It was safe, peaceful. He didn't look at her like a stranger. He looked at her like someone who had been broken once too and survived. She stared at the floor, clenching her fingers around the bottle. A tear rolled down her cheek. "Thank you," she whispered. He simply nodded. No smile, no pity, just presence, just care. In that moment, Emily didn't even know his name. But somehow, she trusted him more than anyone she had ever met. And though they were just strangers in the middle of a noisy, heartless world, something unspoken passed between them, something deeper than names or reasons, something that would change everything. Emily sat still, holding the water bottle like it was the only solid thing in her hands. Jake didn't ask her name. He didn't ask what she was running from or why she was dressed as a bride. sitting broken on a train station bench. He didn't need to know. The silence between them felt like comfort, not distance. Jake looked at her, eyes steady beneath the brim of his hat. His voice was calm, firm, without pressure. "You look like you need a fresh start. Let's go." Just that. No questions, no judgments. Emily blinked, confused by how easily those words reached her. All her life, people had asked too much, demanded too many answers, expected too many things. But this man, he offered nothing but a choice, and for the first time, she felt free to take it. She looked at him, unsure why she trusted him. He was a stranger, rough, dusty, unreadable, but something in his eyes felt honest, safe. She nodded barely, but it was enough. Jake stood up, offered his hand. She hesitated, then took it. Her fingers were cold, his were warm and steady. Without another word, he led her away from the noise, down the edge of the platform, through a quiet gate that opened to the back of the station. Waiting just beyond the fence was a chestnut horse tied to a post, calm and quiet like its rider. Jake helped her up, his movements gentle and respectful, like he knew she was made of glass and might break at any second. She sat sideways, holding tight to the saddle as he climbed up behind her. The wind hit her face, her dress fluttering in the breeze, her veil torn and dirty, but none of that mattered. Jake clicked his tongue, and the horse moved forward, slow at first, then faster as they left the city noise behind. Fields opened in every direction. Long roads stretched like empty promises. Emily didn't ask where they were going. She didn't care. All that mattered was they were going away from the lies, the pressure, the ceremony that never felt like hers. She leaned back slightly, feeling the steady rhythm of the horse beneath her, the quiet strength of the man behind her. The sky turned soft with evening light, painting the world in gold and shadow. Still, he said nothing. Still, she didn't ask. And in that strange, peaceful silence, something inside her began to breathe again. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting go of the weight she'd carried. For the first time in years, she didn't feel like she belonged to someone else. She didn't even know his name. He didn't know hers. But maybe, just maybe, that was what made it real. To strangers, no past, no expectations, just escape and the hope that whatever came next might finally be hers to choose. The road became quieter, the wind softer, and the world seemed to slow down. Emily sat in silence, the fabric of her torn wedding dress fluttering in the evening breeze as Jake guided the horse. Along a narrow dirt path, trees lined both sides of the trail, and the golden sky melted into shades of blue. She didn't ask where they were going, and he still didn't tell. It wasn't fear holding her back now, it was trust, a kind of peace she had never known. After nearly an hour of riding, they stopped in front of a small wooden chapel hidden between tall oak trees. It looked old but clean, untouched by time or noise. The white paint peeled slightly, and wildflowers grew around the steps like nature was guarding it. Jake helped her down, steady as ever, and led her up the steps without saying a word. Inside, the chapel was empty. The wooden benches were worn but sturdy, and sunlight spilled through the stained glass windows in gentle colors. A pastor stood near the altar, alone, reading something quietly. He looked up as they entered, his eyes narrowing at the sight of a bride covered in dust and a cowboy by her side. Jake walked straight up to him and said just 2 words, "Marry us." Emily's heart skipped. She turned to look at him, her lips parted, unsure if she heard right. There were no flowers, no music, no guests, just silence, just them. She searched his face for a sign. Was this real? Was this safe? But all she saw was calm, not demand, not pressure, just a choice. And something in that moment told her it was okay. She took a breath and whispered, "Okay." The pastor didn't ask names. He didn't ask for witnesses. He simply nodded and opened his book. The vows were short, the words simple. Emily's hands trembled as Jake held them, warm and solid. They didn't smile, didn't laugh. They just looked at each other like two people who had no past to hold them back, only a quiet future ahead. "Do you take her?" the pastor asked. "I do," Jake said, voice low and steady. "Do you take him?" "I do," she replied, eyes glistening but strong. That was it. No ring, no applause, no camera flash. Just to broken souls binding their futures without needing to explain their pasts. When it was over, the pastor whispered a blessing, and Jake gently touched her back, leading her down the aisle like it was the only road that ever mattered. Outside, the sky had turned deep blue, and the first stars blinked above them. Emily looked up, then looked at Jake. Still no questions, still no names, just him, beside her, quietly offering something more honest than love, freedom. And somehow, in the middle of nowhere, in the arms of a man she barely knew, she felt like she'd finally come home. Months passed like soft pages in a book she had never thought she'd get to write. Emily sat by the window of their small farmhouse, her hands covered in flour, a calm smile resting on her lips. In her diary, she wrote, "He never asked why I ran. He never asked my name, but he gave me a new one and a life I chose myself." Outside, Jake fed the horses, silent as ever, steady as always. They didn't speak of the past, didn't dig through pain, didn't ask questions that didn't matter anymore. Their love was quiet, built not on promises, but presence. No photos hung on the walls, no wedding ring on her finger, but everything felt whole. She had escaped once, but now she stayed by choice. And every sunrise reminded her some strangers don't come to save you. They come to show you that you can save yourself and still be loved anyway.